describe to you what you're doing for the lesson 1 project part. So you should have this paperwork. You're going to pick an ecosystem, and we're going to choose a national park that's nature-based. The national park website actually has some good resources that will help make this project pretty easy going. So you're going to create a list below of 20 or more organisms that inhabit your location that you pick. Your list should include a variety of organisms, so not just plants, not just frogs, not just like one type of animal, but get a variety. Using the organisms from your list above, construct at least 3 food chains for your ecosystem, and for each food chain, label the following and the whole list of whether they're producers up through tertiary or decomposers through up through omnivores. Okay, once you have your food chains, then you're going to take 12 of your organisms and create a food web out of it. So I have linked the National Park Service website, and I opened it twice, and I'll show you why I opened it twice here in a second. So you're going to pick your park. Let's go ahead and go California, and we'll go. Now, when you're picking your park, make sure it's an actual national park, because Alcatraz Island, that's a location where there's a prison. That's not going to work for an ecosystem at all. Could you argue ecosystem with prisoners that were there? We're not going there. Okay, anyway, this one's a trail, national monument. You don't want any of those. You're going to want to find a national park. So here's Channel Islands. That one would very well work. I'm going to go ahead and pick Death Valley. And when you're trying to figure out animals, you can go ahead and come to learn about the park, hover over it, come over to nature. If you click animals, it's going to give you the option to choose whether you want mammals, birds, basically that whole list that was here. Okay. It's going to give you some background on the ecosystem. You're more than welcome to read that. I'm going to go ahead and pick amphibians. There's several different amphibians on here. So we've got toads, we got salamanders, we got a tree frog, bullfrog. You're going to pick one. You can pick more if you don't have enough different animals, but I prefer that you're trying to limit how many of each type of animal you have. So let's look at the red-spotted toad. Now, there's no link to click on here, but if you take the red-spotted toad, and I'm going to copy this, and then I'm going to come over to the other link that I've opened, and I'm going to go search red-spotted toad. Notice we've got this one right up here at the top. And I'm going to go ahead and open that one. This will give us information about the red-spotted toad. It tells us about the habitat, tells us about the behavior, tells us that it feeds primarily on insects, including ants, bees, and beetles. Occasionally feed on smaller amphibians. So this is the information you would want for the feeding. Okay. Which then that would mean you could include ants, bees, and beetles as some other species that you use. But don't use too many of these either. Otherwise, you're going to have everything pointing, like you're not going to have a whole lot. Okay, so now let's go ahead and try this western toad. I will tell you that not every single species is going to be in here. Try to use the National Park Service website for the majority of it. This one doesn't have a whole lot for the one that for the western toad that I just looked up. So if you want the western toad, and it could be that with that being the common name, it could be that maybe there's more toads that are called western toads. But there's not much on here. So you might, if you decided that you wanted to use the western toad, you might have to go ahead and research through a different website what they eat and what eats them. So that's what you're focusing on for the first part of this project, is to get your ecosystem and a food chain and a food web. Now, when you make the food chain, I would like you to I would prefer if you put some pictures in it, such that you have the pictures with the arrows, kind of like what we had in class when we were doing the practice stuff. But that's it for the first part of the project.